In this lunchtime news broadcast, we bring you the latest news, both local and international, ranging from current affairs to community stories, sports and economic news. Here are some of the news headlines. Knowledge Katti could pocket 42 million Namibian dollars. Kapofi's alleged swindler denies wrongdoing. And Nampower overcharges Unam with 67 million Namibian dollars. I am Ashwin Berry, and this is MMH at 1. International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. Significant activity is witnessed worldwide as groups come together to celebrate women's achievements or rally for women's equality. Watch as they commemorate International Women's Day in Swakopmund under the theme #DigitAll, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. So that was an update on a latest story, which is one of our stories. You check it out on NMH at 1. However, remember to engage with these stories on our social media throughout the broadcast. And once again, happy Women's Day. Visual news coming up after the break.
I think Namco is changing the game.
The service at Namco is amazing.
Fast and friendly.
Always ready to cater to you.
Use them often when we do our trips.
Namco is the one.
In commemoration of International Women's Day, the University of Namibia Action Research Team, Unam Multi-Research Services, in collaboration with Unam Cares, hosted an awareness-raising and community education event aimed at empowering the youth. Keynote speaker at the event, Emma Theophilus, Deputy Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, stated that gender equality cannot be attained if gender-based violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence and sexual violence continue to be a national concern. Junior Kapofi reports.
Post-COVID-19, where people can actually congregate and meet and discuss. And as we commemorate the strides that Namibia has made in attaining gender parity, we are cognizant of the fact that a lot of work still needs to be done. That, however, does not mean we can downplay the achievements of the government of the Republic of Namibia in making and achieving gender parity in our communities. Namibia today boasts a female prime minister and a deputy female prime minister, female ministers and deputy ministers such as myself, heads of state-owned institutions that are female, and even female executives in private sector. It might seem like something normal, but in some parts of the world, women cannot even go to school. They're not visible in institutions of academia, of politics, of business, and let alone be prime ministers and ministers or even professors in universities. So for us here in Namibia, having the ability to have a representation the presence and visibility of women in almost every sector of our economy and our country is a blessing we should not take for granted. We've gathered here today as young people to celebrate International Women's Day under the theme Cracking the Code, Innovation for Gender Equal Future. But as we all know, the international theme is Digital, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. For me, this theme speaks volumes and highly to my mandate as not only a lawmaker, but as a Deputy Minister of ICT. I would like us to collectively reflect on innovative ways to attain gender equality using the various digital platforms, because I believe it is absolutely possible. Technology is here to accelerate, to improve all processes to ensure that we have a better world. And that better world cannot exist without having gender equality. We all know that gender equality cannot be attained if sexual and gender-based violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and sexual violence continues to be a national concern. Prof. Indongo, the statistics from the World Health Organization in 2022 just recently states that 1 in 3 women experience physical and or sexual violence, and the majority of the perpetrators are intimate partners. This means that women and girls across the world are falling victim to violence, not from strangers most of the time, but from people they know and trust. It is very worrisome. Reports from the Demographic Health Survey produced by the National Statistics Agency in 2013, which is quite outdated data at this point because it is 10 years old and we need more relevant data, also alluded to the extent to which gender-based violence has been normalized in our society. The report refers to attitudes towards partner beating, including justifications for hitting or beating a wife or intimate partner.
There is nothing about sodomy that affects the dignity of those who participate in it, an activist has argued. More on this in the newspaper review segment.
I usually fill up about 2 tanks a week. A tank of fuel costs me about 140 to 150 Namibian dollars. I was very fortunate that a couple of my friends and I went to Unam for the day, slept over, and then we rode back the next day. I found the service at the Nampower service stations to be quite fast and friendly, which is really nice, especially when we're on the open road and we want to get to our next destination. What makes me proud Namibian is the fact that we've got all these lovely wide open spaces. And although we are from all different backgrounds, we can all get together and we can have a great time.
Heading into the newspaper review, the Namibian Sun reports that the Attorney General's affidavit supported and propagated homophobic sentiments. It sent a clear message that the state considers homosexual love and relationships unacceptable. This reaction exacerbates the unfair discrimination against homosexuals and reinforces homophobic attitudes. This is what LGBTQ+ activist Frido Laurentius Dausab said recently in response to a statement by Attorney General Festus Mbandeka. It forms part of a case in which Dausab is challenging the constitutionality of laws against sodomy and unnatural sexual offenses. He argued that gay men's constitutional rights to dignity, freedom, equality, and protection against discrimination are violated by these laws. On the paper's page 3, the United Democratic Front last week removed 2 of its councillors serving on the Korigas Town Council, including the chairperson of the council's management committee, Mercia Hendricks, claiming they failed to implement party directives. The other councillor who was removed alongside Hendricks for similar reasons was Gideon Kuseb. Party president Appius Auchab said the removals were prompted by acts of insubordination and voting against a party directive to extend CEO Andreas Hoaseb's contract in December 2022. Republican reports that Namibians are anxiously waiting to see if a severe tropical storm will make landfall closer to Mozambique's coastal city of Beira this week, apparently offering the best chance of any rainfall here after a dry February and early March. On page 3, the Attorney General's affidavit supports and propagates homophobic sentiments, says the campaigner for the LGBTQ+ community, Frido Dasab, and it sends a message that the state considers homosexual love and relationships unacceptable. On its front page, the Allgemeine Zeitung, you can today read up on the activist Frido Dasab, who is taking legal action against the so-called sodomy law of Namibia and has now reacted to the statement submitted by the Attorney General Festus Mbandeka. Dasab judges Mbandeka's submission to be homophobic, while the law remains unconstitutional as it differentiates between people who have different sexual orientations. Now on its page 2, the Allgemeine Zeitung leads with the legal matter that sees an application by fugitive lawyer Maren de Klerk, who is one of the accused in the fish rot corruption scandal, having been finally dismissed with costs by the Namibian Supreme Court. De Klerk had failed to comply with a number of court rules when he appealed to have documentation admitted to the Supreme Court in an attempt to remain listed as executor of 3 wills. He will thus be struck as executor in line with a previous application that had been upheld in the High Court. Newspaper review continues after the break with the Namibian.
I usually don't drive this car around. It's a standing base. I fill up my car for 850, which that gave me a full tank. I used to use this car between Rebot and Windhoek. Yeah, once you reach home in Rebot, it's almost a half tank. It's from Windhoek to Ketmas. That is the longest I have driven with this baby. I think Namco is changing the game because their service is very organized, clean. Even their takeaway department, Namco is the one. There is no country like Namibia. Namibia is a very beautiful country. That's why I'm part of it.
Continuing with the newspaper review, the Namibian newspaper reports that businessman Knowledge Katti stands a chance of making around 42 million Namibian dollars by selling just 1% of a petroleum block joint venture near a hotspot in Namibia where oil has been discovered. The block is situated north of recent discoveries by Total Energies, Qatar Energy and Shell. In 2018, Katti and his Australian partners, Pan-Continental Energy, obtained the 87 oil license, which covers oil block 2713. The ownership of the block was divided as follows. Pan-Continental Energy owns 75%, Katti owns 15%, and the National Petroleum Corporation of Namibia owns 10%. On page 3, the Namibia Power Corporation has overcharged the University of Namibia with around 67 million Namibian dollars and has been told to pay back the money. The state electricity company was found to have overcharged the institution for electricity consumption as its agriculture training center at its Unam campus east of Windhoek. Now, the Namibian has learned that an agreement is being hatched between the 2 government-owned entities for Nampower to repay Unam the 67 million Namibian dollars. Murder-accused Azan Madesya yesterday profusely apologized to the family and parents of her victim Shannon Wassefall at the end of her evidence in her defense, New Era reports. I know my actions hurt a lot of people and I wish to apologize. To the family and parents of Shannon, I am truly sorry. If Shannon was here, she could have told you it was just an accident. I never thought it would go that far. I will never be able to look at her parents in the eyes again, said the 30-year-old in a faltering voice that was barely audible. Now on page 3, a man accused of defrauding the Minister of Defense Frans Kapofi and a local hotel denied the allegations against him. On Monday, Owen Mahoto pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of fraud before Windhoek magistrate Kamboua Umunavi. According to his lawyer, Ujenua Shimunino, Mahoto will not furnish the court with any explanation. He said Mahoto will only disclose his defense once the prosecutor general decides to prosecute him. MarketWatch informs that the 2022 financial performance of Nedbank Namibia reflected an excellent performance across key metrics in a complex and difficult external environment. We are proud to share our year-end results, which demonstrate the resilience and adaptability of our business, said Sebi Kankondi, chairman of Nedbank Namibia. Nedbank Namibia delivered strong headline earnings growth of 35% for the financial year ended 31 December 2022, driven by increased interest rates as well as growth in the group's non-interest income combined with good cost management. Now, multinational energy giant Total Energies has signed corporate power purchase agreements for 2 projects. More on this in economic news shortly. Heading into economic news, multinational energy giant Total Energies has signed corporate power purchase agreements for 2 projects to provide Sasol and Air Liquide with 260 megawatts of renewable energy over the next 20 years. Total Energies announced it would develop a 120 megawatt solar plant and a 140 megawatt wind farm in the Western Cape to supply around 850 gigawatts of green electricity per year to the Sasol Secunda site in Mpumalanga, where Air Liquide operates the biggest oxygen production site in the world. The 2 projects are subject to regulatory approvals and are expected to be operational in 2025. Let's head straight into the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar registered an uptick next to the euro and the Chinese yuan, but is down next to the British pound and US dollar, trading at 18.61 next to the US dollar. Commodities managed to maintain their value, with Namibia Breweries Limited staying on 46.01 points. Local index maintained its value, however, overall index closed down by 0.47%, and Trustco Group Holdings is suspended. Gold, copper, and zinc all made downturns of 1.22%, 1.76%, and 2.59% respectively, whilst Brent crude oil made an uptick. Somalia is working closely to restore peace in its northern breakaway region of Somaliland. We'll be talking about this in African News after the break.
Active Kids is an initiative under the MyZone brand that aims to provide exciting and easy activities and fun stories. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na. Active Kids, where we actively invest in your future.
Heading into news from Africa, Somalia is working closely to restore peace in its northern breakaway region of Somaliland amid heightening tensions between the region's authorities and local clan forces. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed told Al Jazeera, "We believe that unity is the only solution, but we don't want this unity through violence, which makes matters worse." Mohammed told Al Jazeera violence erupted after leaders of the Sool, Sanaag, and Kain provinces of Somaliland, which claimed independence from Somalia in 1991, announced their intention to rejoin Somalia. Fighting broke out last month around the town of Alaskanud in Sool, killing at least 80 people and displacing more than 185,000, according to the UN. "We have been advocating for the last couple of weeks on how we can first stop the violence and then open a space for dialogue," Mohammed said in a wide-ranging interview in which he talked about the state's fight against Al-Shabaab armed group, a sweeping drought in the country, and gender violence. In August last year, a few months after being re-elected for the second time, Mohammed declared an all-out war against Al-Shabaab, which has been waging a rebellion against the government since 2007. A passenger train derailed earlier today north of Cairo, killing at least 2 people and injuring a further 16. Egyptian authorities said at least 20 ambulances were dispatched to the scene and the injured were transferred to nearby hospitals. A ministry statement said the injured were in stable condition. The derailing happened as the train was traveling through the city of Qalyub on its way to the city of Manouf in the Nile Delta, state prosecutors said. Now, Egypt's National Rail Authority specified that the accident occurred when a passenger train entering Qalyub station went through a stop signal, leading to the derailment of the locomotive and the first carriage. Police formed a perimeter to hold back crowds who perched on other walls nearby. A crane was later brought in to lift a derailed car, which appeared to be partially crumbled. Egyptian rail accidents have mostly been blamed on poor infrastructure and maintenance. In April 2021, the nation's transport minister fired the rail authority's head following an uproar over the mismanagement of dilapidated train lines. We'll be heading straight into international news shortly. Protesters have clashed with police in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi, after Parliament backed a controversial draft law which critics say limits press freedom and suppresses civil society. Riot police used water cannons and pepper spray to disperse the crowds outside the Parliament building. Some protesters were seen falling on the ground and coughing, while others waved EU and Georgian flags. The government says several policemen were hurt and police gear was damaged. There has been widespread international condemnation of the bill, which would require non-governmental organizations and independent media that receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad to declare themselves as foreign agents. The opposition described it as a Russian-style law that would stigmatize and clamp down on Georgia's vibrant civil society and independent media. U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said the draft legislation would be a tremendous setback. Price said the U.S. was deeply concerned and troubled about the bill that would strike at some of the very rights that are central to the aspirations of the people of Georgia. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said the draft legislation was incompatible with EU values and standards. Brussels is currently considering Georgia's application for EU candidate status. Now, the 21st Namibian Newspaper Cup competition, supported by Standard Bank, will be hosted this year. More in local sports shortly.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact B7 at synergy.com.na.
Heading into the local sports, the 21st Namibian Newspaper Cup competition, supported by Standard Bank, will be hosted this year from 7 to 10 April in Oshuwarongo, where all 14 regions will be represented. The Omaheke region, Kavango East, Oshikoto, and Kavango West will battle it out in Group A. Group B's rivals are Karas, Zambesi, Khomas, and Oshodonjupa. Group C and D only have 3 teams each. Group C is Kunene, Hardap, and Omsati, while Erongo, Ohangwena, and Oshana will compete in Group D. The winner of Group A will go head-to-head against the winner of Group C in one semi-final, while the winners of Group B and D will face each other. The Richelieu Eagles, Namibia's senior men's cricket team, are holding their breaths for the outcome of the last one-day international matches of the World Cricket League 2 competition between Nepal, Papua New Guinea, and the United Arab Emirates that starts tomorrow in Nepal. The outcome will determine the Eagles' fate in the competition. The latter countries, which have 4 games left in the competition to conclude their 36 games, while Namibia has already finalized their 36 matches with 39 league points in the 3rd place on the log. Nepal 5th place with 32 points, and the Emirates 6th place with 31 points could respectively end on 40 and 39 points, while PNG posed no threat to the Eagles. Hopefully PNG will win a couple of their matches versus the Emirates and Nepal to secure Namibia's 3rd place on the log. The MTC Nestor Sunshine Tobias Boxing Academy today received a sponsorship from PST Bet in the capital. Now, the sponsorship of $2.7 million Namibian will run over 3 years. Tobias is a well-known boxing promoter with several world champions on his CV that can secure more top-class boxing tournaments with annual burrs of 900,000 Namibian dollars. Stay with us as we start off with Springbok Sevens in our international sports. Heading into international sport, the Springbok Sevens' hopes of an automatic Olympic qualification are hanging by a thread, and they will have to face a tough draw in a tournament that has perennially been their downfall as they hope to pick up the pieces of their campaign. The Blitzboks' 13th place finish in Vancouver, a tournament they have won 3 times in the past 5 years, shows just how much the struggle will be, and coupled with their poor performance the week before in Los Angeles, where they won just 1 game the entire weekend, Coach Sandile Ngobo has some issues on his hands. To be fair, it is wrong to blame the coaching team, as the same issues surfaced last season when Nampower was in charge, with the Blitzboks ending 13th last season in Los Angeles, not to mention their blowout World Cup Sevens campaign and some average performances through the season. Aston Martin driver Lance Stroll detailed on Tuesday his successful battle to be fit for the start of Formula One season with broken wrists after a cycling accident, and said his doctors feared initially he would miss the opening races. The Canadian finished 6th in Sunday's Bahrain opener despite injuries that included also a broken right big toe in the training fall in Spain on 18 February. My medical team at first believed I was not only going to miss testing, but realistically the first few races, Stroll told followers on Instagram. The 24-year-old said he had surgery on his right wrist 48 hours after the accident and 12 days before the first race, with the operation carried out by MotoGP traumatology specialist Javier Mir in Barcelona. Now, with the domestic athletics season gaining early momentum, all eyes will be on the ASA Marathon Championships this weekend, with the men's race promising to be a thrilling battle between world-class athletes possessing varied combinations of strength and speed. The national championships, which will be incorporated into the Durban International Marathon, will be held on Sunday, 12 March 2023. The men's event will have a quality domestic lineup competing for the national title, with some very promising marathon runners looking to establish themselves even further than they already have over the classic 42.2 kilometer distance. Stay with us as we head into the highlights after the break.
Flex is your health and fitness show that focuses on the health of the mind, body and spirit. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na.
We are back again with another
Generation
episode
Z
of your
reaches
favorite show.
scholars, varsity and the youth generation through zone, varsity and school news. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na.
Heading into the highlights from this afternoon's broadcast, Somalia is working closely to restore peace in its northern breakaway region of Somaliland amid heightening tensions between the region's authorities and local clan forces. Protesters have clashed with police in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi, after Parliament backed a controversial draft law which critics say limits press freedom and suppresses civil society. And the 21st Namibian Newspaper Cup competition, supported by Standard Bank, will be hosted this year from 7 to 10 April in Oshwarongo. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. catching up with the latest news in Namibia, Africa. This has been MMH at 1. My name is Ashwin Berry. See you tomorrow.